we go. We're live. Hi, Gavin.
How you
Thanks for
doing?
coming on, buddy.
Thanks for having me on.
Right, so we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to ask you about certain genes, big genes, that people may be thinking about investing in. A
Yep.
lot of these are, a big investment for people, and they may be doubting whether to invest in these genes or not. And it'd be
Yeah.
great to hear from someone like you who's got the experience, maybe got some inside
Yep.
knowledge on them, and whether they're a good project. So we'll kick off straight away with a project that I know you love anyway, but nice and easy. Start with the Sunset Project.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So the Sunset Project for me, as I've said before, I was a bit of I was unsure about. For me, there was the combos I'd saw never really sort of did it for me, but I knew it was special. I knew there was something there, and I knew it was going to be one of those genes that if I started working with, I would start to enjoy. And the good thing with the Sunset is it's a recessive. So we've got longevity within the project. So for me, I am buzzing now about the Sunset. When I first got into it, I wasn't buzzing. I got into it because it was either a toss up between that or the Stranger. And I really liked, obviously, the Stranger was doing some amazing things. There was this whispers through the ranks of Mahogany and Stranger. So I kind of stepped away from that, and I went with Sunset, and I'm really pleased I have.
So what sort of directions are you looking to take it in?
So just recently, thanks to Brad Bower, we've seen that dark morphs react very well with Sunset. And what's crazy, we'd be thinking that stuff like pastel, pinstripe, would react really well with Sunset. And it kind of doesn't quite work. But the leopard, the Mojave, they really, really work. And I've seen Brian Cusco, he obviously does the Enchi cinnamon sunsets. And again, I know Enchi's not really a dark gene, but Enchi can be used within dark and light. So I think the same with Orange Dream, the same with Yellow Belly, the same with, like I said, Mojave. So those genes that can work on both the light and the dark side really work well with the sunset. But I think going more the darker genes with the sunsets is the way forward. And I think adding other recessives, like we've got to look at. So here's the strange thing about sunset: it's not only a color changing gene, but it's also a pattern changing gene. So when we look at recessives, majority of the recessives out there are either color changing or pattern changing. So pattern changing being clown, pied, G stripe, puzzle. Obviously, they do kind of amp color slightly, but it's not a real difference in color like hypo, ultramal, albino. Obviously, stuff like toffee, lavender, desert ghost. They all change color, and the other hand, the others change pattern. So what we've got with the sunset is something that's really interesting. We've got a color and a pattern changing gene in one, and it's not. And I know some people will say, "Oh, the pied is also a color changing gene." It is, but it's very subtle, you know. Whereas in the sunset, we've got a massive difference in pattern, and we've got a difference in color. So for me, I think the sunset has got some longevity in finding out, and this is the thing. This is the exciting thing: is finding out what works with sunset, and that for me is kind of what's floating my boat. Getting me excited.
Yeah, because it's actually been around a lot longer than I thought. It's been around for about 9 years, which I'm surprised how little's been done with it in that time, sort of thing. We're starting to see bits now, but it's sort of taking quite a long time to sort of get to this point.
Get rolling. Yeah, I mean, listen, Clown was like what 98, 99, something like that.
Yeah.
Uh, um, uh, Dave and Tracy Barker VPI, they actually thought it wouldn't be anything. They just thought it wouldn't be genetic. And look at us now. You know, we're what, 20 years, 23 years into the project.
Yeah.
And we went from making clown combos, which were very reduced in pattern. Everyone wanted that striped clown reduced pattern. To now we want the wackiest, craziest
Yeah.
pattern going. So what I'm trying to say is, yes, Sunset's been out for quite a while, but it's never been, it's never, it's never really took, it's never got traction until now. And I think that when we get into this interview a bit more, we'll understand that it's not just the gene, it's also the breeder that's
Yeah.
managing the project, which is key. You know, you kind of, and again, talking about investments and all that sort of stuff, you know, we can buy a gene, anyone can buy a gene, but it's always clever to buy the breeder as well.
Mm.
So you're buying the gene and the breeder's knowledge, the breeder's showing you what's been made, what can be made, their enthusiasm, their excitement, which way they want to go. You know, you're buying all of that. So I think now the Sunset is getting traction. I think that's where we're heading. I'm trying to stay away from the clown Sunset.
Yeah. It
I'd
wasn't
like to see.
that
I'd
great,
like to
was it?
see. No, no, it wasn't great. And listen, we're going to have ups and downs with every project. You know,
Yeah.
nothing can be perfect all the way, and this is what's fun about it. What's good about the Sunset Clown is that how's it going to look? So what we find with most clowns as they get older is they brown.
Mm.
Let's address it in the room. So what we've got to do is stop the clown from going brown, which hopefully will stop the Sunset from going down with it, if that makes sense. Um, so it's going to be really interesting over the next few years to see which way people take Sunset. And I think the only way we can do that is make it more accessible for people and not necessarily kill the market value because a lot of time and effort has gone into the project. But we've got to respect it, and we've also got to look at, you know, everyone's got different collections. So someone else might have the Sunset and take it a completely different way. When I picked up my Sunset from in Rock, Neil over in Rock, I think it's in Rock Pythons, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
in Rock. I
Yeah.
always get confused. Neil's a great guy. The fact that my male was Pos Het Ultramel sold it. He was
Yeah.
also Posset Albino. I
Yeah.
wasn't care about that. The Posset Ultramal sold it for me because I'm an
Yeah.
Ultramal guy, you know.
Yeah.
So for me, that was like, I don't care if he's het or not. He's going into my Ultramal project,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it just so happens that he is 100% het Ultramal. So that's really sort of took um, my thoughts on the Sunset, kind of changed the direction. Obviously, I'm in the Ultramal Pied project, and I've made some double het Sunset pieds, and hopefully there's a triple in there.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean. I'm just excited with that. I've made some OD Enchi Yellow Belly Het Sunset Posset Ultramals. Again, we could go down the realms of making Super OD, Super Enchi Yellow Belly Sunsets again and see how they react. So you know, and adding Mojave in the mix because Mojave works well with Enchi, Mojave works well with Yellow Belly, works well with Orange Dream. So again, having Mojaves, and we've seen the Mojave do really well in Sunset, bringing that in, you know, and having all those genes that work really well together.
I was going to say the OD route is quite a good route because a lot of people won't know. I only know because I saw yours when I came to your HQ. But just down the side on the belly, it's really orange. So
Yeah,
if you can enhance that,
on the
that's
Sunset. Yeah,
yes, yeah.
yeah,
You know, because it's just when you see pictures of them, you obviously see it from the top,
yeah,
and you know you can't see that sort of saddle that they
yeah,
have, that orange saddle, and it's yeah, I do think that like a super OD version is going to be, you know,
yeah,
if you were going the codon route,
yeah,
that's a really good way of going with it.
again, who knows if that's going to work? It could
Yeah,
look like
Yeah.
just an orange pile of soup.
Yeah.
You know, who knows? But we've got to try because and this is what it's all about. He's going down the route and going, do you know what? That quite didn't work. And if we stand here and go, yeah, wow, look at the sunset clown, it's amazing. Actually, it's not.
No.
Let's be honest. It's not. And I'm not going to blow smoke up anyone's backside and say, yeah, it's a real amazing. It's not. But what's interesting about it, I'm not knocking it. What I'm saying is, it's not amazing, but at least we've tried. At
Yes.
least we
Yeah.
can now see what can we do to make it better? What can we do to amplify the colours? What's making it brown out and quite not look that great? And the answer is the clown. So okay, now we need to re-engineer it and go right. What helps clowns stay better as adults? And then let's put that into it and let's see how we go from there.
Yeah.
So I think that is key. Knowing and acknowledging when a combo works and when it doesn't. Yeah, it's clown, which is one of the hottest genes at the moment. Obviously, recessives, and yes, it's sunset because that's one of the most not it's one of the most thought about investable genes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we've got those two genes together and go, wow, yeah, yeah, and yeah, it's that sort of thing. So for me, it's all about making it look as good as a hatchling as it does, as an adult as it does as a hatchling.
Yeah, I know. I think Justin's working on the DG Sunset, so that'll be interesting to see what that looks like.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, I don't see. Here's the thing. So, everyone who's in DG is going to hate me for this. Um, DG for
Go on,
me
be
as an
controversial. Go on.
yeah. Well, and you know what? This is the thing. This is my opinion, and I'm not hating on the project. I'm just being real. Yeah, DG as hatchlings, they clean up the snake and they look amazing. I've got DGs which you, I've got, I think I've got enhancer and I've got DG.
Hmm.
Okay, I think my DGs that I had as DGs are enhancers, but they're DGs, right? Let's just leave it at that. The main breeder of my DG stuff, he's like white and cream. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
white and cream as an adult. Now his babies look phenomenal, like beautiful stark blacks, beautiful yellows, and they look fantastic. However, people think, oh, Orange Dream in DG will look amazing. As an adult, the DG takes the orange pigments away.
Hmm.
So we kind of, when we were looking at DG stuff, it looks great, but again, then it starts to turn colour, and instead of it going brown, it doesn't go brown, which is fantastic. It sort of goes, it takes the colour pigments away. So that's why sometimes DG Exantics as adults look phenomenal, phenomenal. So when we look at it like that, again, finding the right thing that works with DG is key, because some people may want to make pretty DG combos as babies. For me, I want to make pretty babies and amazing adults. And that's where I try and work my projects and add or take away. It's like, I love hypo, but I don't think hypo and ultramel work well together. That's my thoughts, because the hypo deserves to stand on its own. It does something completely different to ultramel. And I think it takes away from the ultramel as an adult. Again, that's why I try and keep two colour patterns. And this is what I say to people. If you're going to work with a colour recessive, try and work with a pattern recessive to marry those two up. Instead of going colour and colour,
Mm.
which some work. The snow, I was in the snow project. I made snows. They looked amazing. But once I made them, I was like, I don't know what else to do, you know?
Yeah.
But then if we make exantic clowns, exantic pieds. You know, we can make albino pieds look fantastic. You know, albino clowns look fantastic. As adults, they may change,
Hmm.
but you know, it's having that right combination. And I
Yeah.
think sometimes I think having the right genes for the right projects, like I said, DG. I'm not a hater. I'm I'm not a massive breeder of DG. I've got some of it in my collection, and I'm slowly working it in. But it's not at the forefront of my
Yeah.
projects, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. You know, I'm trying to make those DG Exantics still. It's like my second year in a row, and I keep missing. I'm hitting Exantics, DGs, and everything in between, but no Exantic DGs. But
No.
we'll get there.
Yeah. Right. Monarch.
I knew this was coming.
Yeah, I knew you were going to hate that one.
No, I don't hate it. I've just left a comment on. I don't know if you just saw Justin's video. Justin's posted a video on
No,
Monarch.
do you know what? I saw the post, but I haven't seen the video yet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've literally just posted a comment on his video, just literally saying, "Look, you know, I'm an ultra male guy. You know,
Hmm.
I keep looking at monarchs, and I keep thinking, but I don't pull the trigger. You know, I looked at one last night, a breeder female, and I was like, you know, and I just didn't pull the trigger. I think, you know, and this is the thing. I believe that you've got to work with what tickles your fancy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you've got to be excited about the project. For me, Monarch, um, yeah, it's not. It's not. I want to see what people do with it. Um, I'm not convinced. Um, to me, ultramales look better as they get older, but that's my opinion. You know, some people like the dark maroons, and what was it Justin called them? Toffee, or yeah, toffee colours. Some people like that, you know,
Yeah.
but I want it to be vibrant. I want, you know, I want you to look at an adult and go, wow, you know.
Yeah, to
So
be fair, I don't think I've seen an adult monarch, so I don't really know how well they age. They're obviously that deeper, darker, sort of chocolatey
yeah,
colour. They
yeah,
obviously do act slightly differently because obviously I've seen pastel monarchs and they're really nice, whereas obviously
yeah.
pastel doesn't work that well with ultramel, so they
I'll
obviously
argue
react.
with that. I'll
Oh,
argue with
really?
that. Yeah,
Well,
I've got
yeah,
some beautiful. I've got some beautiful pastel ultramals, but and this is the thing. So just recently, and I've seen people selling ultramals as monarchs because of the price value.
right,
Yeah.
yeah,
So, and if you think about it, they're not that dissimilar as hatchlings, if you
no,
know what you're looking for.
yeah, yeah,
So, I've seen people who have brought monarchs and they're not that deep maroon colour. You know, they're not that deep, vibrant, deep colours. They pop like ultramals. And
mm,
unfortunately, we've come across stuff like this in the past. You know, people were selling deserts as a desert ghosts. Obviously, the females, because they didn't reproduce, they were selling um, um, caramels as ultramals as well. We've seen that before in the past. So we've got to be mindful what we're buying. And I'm kind of seeing it now with the Hurricane and Trick,
yeah,
and Chocolate and Wookie recently. But we can go into that in a minute. Um, but my pastel ultramales for me just blow me away. Um, I've got a female, she's laid eggs. I've got a male, a breeder male, and I think the pastel adds to it. Um, but the next time you're over at the HQ, say, "Hey, Gav, do you remember those pastel ultramals you said? Show me, and I'll show them you. And you tell me."
You've just probably got a really good line of pastel that
It's
just.
the ultramal line. The ultramal. There
Oh,
are good
okay. Well, they.
There are good pastel lines. There are good pastel lines, and that is key as well. But I work with the Noah line of Ultramal, which is two lines.
Yeah.
There's the Kreidler line and there's the Noah line. The Kreidler line looks more like a caramel, and that's why in the beginning it was called caramel, a Kreidler line caramel, because caramels came before Ultramals, and caramels were really expensive, but they were kinky. So when Eric Kreidler had this line of um, um, caramel, he was calling it the Kreidler line of caramel, or the Kreidler line caramel, and it actually wasn't a caramel; it was an Ultramel. So it wasn't compatible with any other caramels, but it was compatible with the Noah line Ultramel. So he changed the name to the Ultramel because obviously it was an Ultramel line. It just looked more like a caramel. So
Yeah. Right. Puzzle. Let's get into
yep.
puzzle. What do you think of it? Do you like it?
Yeah. So when I first saw the puzzle, was Sean Bradley
Yeah.
over at Exotics by Nature. Got on really well with Sean. Did the bullshit podcast. We stayed in touch for a long while afterwards. I was going to get into the puzzle early days. There was a couple of puzzles I was looking at. I just didn't have the funds. I couldn't pull the trigger on it. And then I started to see different um, different different puzzles. Is that you or is that me?
It's me. Sorry. It's my home
Oh,
phone.
it's all right. It's all right. So, so I saw different puzzles. I started seeing these puzzles, and they weren't that great. And I was like, well, Sean's look 10 times better. What's all that about? So, as it turns out, we now know. And when I was speaking to Sean in the beginning, he sort of said to me, he said, Gav, I think there's another gene at play in this puzzle. I said, oh, okay, mate. Ozzy picked up some of the earlier puzzles, which he still got from Sean. And the puzzles at that time were also carrying cryptic
Yeah.
along with another gene. So Ozzy picked up. Ozzy wanted the most craziest looking puzzles Sean had. I think Sean was calling the other gene Atari, not Hatari, because there's
Yeah.
a Hatari out there. It was Atari, he was calling it at the time. And Ozzy picked these amazing puzzles up. And then I started speaking to Ozzy about the puzzles. This was like a year later. And I said to Ozzy, I said, I don't want pastel in the puzzle. He went, Gav, you need pastel in puzzle. Trust me. I was like, okay, Oz, whatever you say, I'll do.
Yeah.
You know. So for me, the puzzle's really interesting. Again, really close to pulling the trigger last year on some amazing puzzle combos from Ozzy, and then the whole Krypton thing happened, and I was like, whoa, okay, hold your horses a minute. What's going on? Because again, I'm from the old school mentality where I've seen too many breeders get burned. I've seen too many people fork out loads of money for a new gene, and it's not
Yeah.
because they don't prove stuff out. They just, I've got this new gene. Do you want to buy it? It's $25,000. Yeah, I'll buy it. You're like, you don't even know if it's a super, you know. So
Well,
anyway,
we're probably going to get into some of them a bit later, actually, because there's a few that
yeah.
are
So
really,
so,
really
so for
high
me,
price tags.
oh yeah, for me, I was kind of like the puzzle is a fantastic gene. I think it's got fantastic longevity, but I'm starting to see. I mean, I had kryptons in my collection through a friend of mine, and I was just like, these made some amazing animals, and I was like, wow, look at this. Obviously, we now know they're double het for
Yeah.
clown cryptic, um, and I saw the confusion with the double het thing, and I was getting people say to me, "How does it work then, Gav? what's this about? What's that about? I've seen this. And then I started to see puzzles which looked not the best. And then I saw cryptics or kryptons which would look better. And I was like, yeah, I think it's a fantastic gene. I just think the cryptic and krypton project, people can make, and this is the thing we saw back in the day with Banana and Ultramel. When people can make a similar looking animal cheaper and quicker, they will. Okay, it's a bit like if you saw a TV in the PC world and it was £1,000, but you know Asda's got exactly the same thing or virtually the same thing. It's just a different model, but it's got all the same spec for 700 quid.
Yeah.
You're going to go to the supermarket. It's just the way of the world. And we did the same with Banana. So Ultramel landed in the UK. It was like 20k for a pair. It was crazy. Yeah. Banana landed and everyone dropped Ultramel like a hot rock. But that was good because I could come in and go, I'll take those Ultramels.
Yeah.
Because they all wanted the money for the bananas, you see. And literally within 3 years of the banana, because of the male making thing and it being co-dominant, I remember being at Doncaster and this guy from over Ireland, I'm not sure who he was or whether he's still about, I don't know. But literally his table, I mean, it's a 6 foot wide table, 6 foot by 2 foot or 6 foot by 4 foot, 6 foot. Yeah. Anyway, it was full, Gary, with little tubs, brass glass tubs, full of bananas, and he was selling them. Now, bear in mind, bananas were like £600 to £800 at that time,
Right.
Which doesn't sound a lot, but that's when it started to come into the mainstream. People were paying 25k for one, and then when they were breeding them, all of a sudden they were coming down. So this was at the time when they were like, after 3 years, I'd say, year 2 or year 3 of them being in the UK. This guy had got them on the table at £200 a piece, dude, and they were lining up at his table, doing this. The guy cleaned up. No one had any money to spend at Doncaster because they all brought bananas. So literally, going back again, when we see a project like the Ultramel, which is a recessive, which is demanding big money, and a codom comes in underneath, people are going to buy it, drop the recessive, and start producing because they know they can get a quicker return on their investment. And I think the same is sort of happening with puzzle, because I believe puzzle is far too cheap than what it should be. But a lot of people are going after the cryptic and the kryptons.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of people are popping kryptons in their collection and not realizing it. So by pure accident.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that going on. So I really like the puzzle. I think it's just kind of, yeah. The earlier puzzle stuff, like I said, with that double gene stuff, just looked phenomenal. And I think Ozzy is making some crazy puzzle combos. But it's just a shame that it's kind of, in my opinion, from what I've seen, and I'm speaking to two people, is that it's kind of undervalued because of the cryptic kryptons. People are making similar looking animals, So
yeah, I think when people really start working on like the puzzle clowns and things like that, and they really start coming out, because obviously we've seen puzzle clowns, but we haven't seen combos really yet. So I think if that becomes a bit more popular, obviously because cryptic's allelic with clown, you can't do that. That might separate the two.
yeah,
But like you said, at the moment, it's too easy to make a krypton and quite hard to make a puzzle clown. So it's
yeah.
kind of,
And and if you think about it, if it's allelic, right? So let's say you buy a krypton. Who's to stop? Who's to say that someone will get hold of it and sell it as a puzzle
Yeah,
because it still acts like a recessive. Yeah, because it is
yeah, yeah,
cryptics and a
yeah,
recessive.
yeah,
So think about it. If they then take that puzzle in brackets, breed it to, I don't know, normal, then breed the siblings back, they will start hatching cryptics, kryptons,
yeah,
and clowns. Then they'll go, oh, my puzzle's het clown. Wow, it's fantastic. Because we're struggling to tell the difference between a cryptic and a krypton.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's the downside of the cryptic stuff. So, and it's very, what we need to understand is when we're working with genes, we need to have a clear mindset. If you're working with the puzzle because you love it, work with it. Yeah?
yeah,
Work with it. You work your ass off, work with it. If you're doing it from an investment standpoint, be mindful. And that's the same with everything else. Whatever you invest in, you want to be mindful of the future outcome. People were wanting to produce, people were throwing big money at the scaleless head to
yeah,
produce scaleses
yeah,
before finding out if the super could actually produce eggs.
yeah. I
So,
think is it Wilbanks, Mike Wilbanks?
Mike, Mike Wilbanks,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So he sort of invested early, didn't he, in the scaleless? And
Yeah, he bought it from Brian.
I think he's admitted now that he's not seen a female
Yeah,
super on eggs. So
yeah.
it's pretty conclusive that that's not going to happen. So
Well, if you think about it, the keratin which makes the scales is also responsible for the shelling of the eggs.
mm,
So, if it's got no scales because it doesn't produce the keratin, is it the same for the eggs? I'm no biologist. I'm no, in that, you know, geneticist. I'm just thinking out loud. Um, and I'm not. I don't hate on any project. The only time I hate on a project if it's missold.
yeah,
If it's missold and that person knows they're misselling it just to gain that extra money, that's what really. But that's down to the breeder, not necessarily down to the project.
yeah,
So I think all projects have an investment value, but the key is you've got to want to work with it.
yeah.
My friend, he works with albino. He's produced like 6 albino clowns in one clutch from 6 eggs, 6 albino clowns. And I kid you not, I nearly brought one because I look at them and I was like, wow,
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
But albino doesn't float my boat. So, it's one of them.
Okay, well, I'm going to miss Cryptic off because that was on the list because I think we've covered that. So I'm going to
Yeah.
jump straight into probably one of the most expensive, I think, at the moment, which is Monsoon. Yeah, hard to get as well.
Yeah.
I think I've only seen one for sale in the US this year or something like that. So
Was
it's
it
not an easy one to get into.
37,000? Was it $37,000? Something like that, I think it was.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think so. Is that Mojave Monsoon or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I potentially may have Het Monsoon stuff.
yeah.
And if I hit, I didn't buy, I brought a special Het Pied Posset Monsoon from Billy.
Oh,
And
okay. Yeah, yeah.
he's got Het Monsoon markers. I've just hatched a clutch, which was on the video yesterday or the day before. And I've produced some weird looking pied things,
Right.
which indicate if we're talking Het Monsoon markers, it kind of indicates that it's got Het Monsoon markers. The one thing I think with Monsoon is it's very overpowering.
Yes.
And I wouldn't buy a gene just because it's at the top, as in the most expensive. Oh, look at me, I've got a Monsoon.
Yeah, yeah.
I would buy a gene because I want to work with that and make something with it. So I think the Monsoon pieds may end up looking, well, I hope they look like the Burmese pied because the Burmese pied looks amazing. and the albino Burmese pied looks phenomenal. So for me, I hope that the the, the, the monsoon pied, we can put monsoon in the pied and make it look low white, very much like a Burmese pied would, and then add a colour morph on top.
Yeah.
Because it's obvious the monsoon is powerful. It overpowers Mojave, overpowers leopard. So let's not try and break the pattern. Let's try and colour up the pattern. Let's try and add some colour to it. That's what I feel with the monsoon. It's a great, again, everything we can sit here and say. I mean, this is my opinion, and I just like to put stuff out there and just say it's not for me, but I'd like to see this.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I love about this industry, is that there's so many different genes that we can play with, and we can produce some crazy looking stuff that it's endless. It's endless, Gary. So the monsoon, I think it's early days. I think if we see the monsoon pied and it does come out looking the way I think it's going to look, I think it'll blow up. I'm
Yeah.
not going to lie. I think it'll
Sod's
blow
law,
up.
it'll be high white.
Hopefully not. Because if you notice, like in the retic world and in the berm world, their pieds normally are low white.
Yeah.
And our pieds can be high white.
Yeah.
And they're trying to make high white pieds, and we're trying to make low white pieds.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's kind of that fine balance that we love what the pied does. We just want to see a bit more pattern. And we'd love to see a pied which is speckled,
Yeah.
like speckled, and then saddles of speckling and
Yeah.
colour, and then
Yeah.
white, and then speck. I'd love to see that. And you get that a lot with the burn pied. You get a lot of speckling, so I hope it's not a high white pied. I hope it produces a very low white pied, to where just maybe the white is along the belly and a few rings that go over the back and
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
dorsal.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Like
That'd
a
be
super
really cool.
inchy pie
Yeah,
type,
yeah,
high
yeah.
pattern.
And again, back in the day, low white pies were cheap as chips.
Oh,
Trust,
really?
honestly, mate. Yeah, dude, they were literally half the price of a high white pie. If you got a high white pie, it was so expensive back in the day. It was nuts. People went mad for high white pies. They wanted either 50 or 70% white pies. If it was low white, no one would touch them. And yet now is a prime example of how the market can shift and how trends can shift, and it can go that way. Ben Rennick made the first spot nose clowns.
Yeah.
God rest his soul. Ben Rennick made the first spot nose clowns, and we can say he was murdered on the Thursday. I was speaking to him on the Tuesday, and when I saw what Justin was doing with the spot nose clowns, I knew Ben had got loads of spot nose clowns. So I got in touch with Ben about spot nose clowns. And again, spot nose was cheap back in the day, really cheap.
Yeah.
And then someone like Justin made the Batman, and it just blew it up. So we see these trends, and this is why I'll never write a gene off. I'll just say that project's not for me at this minute. I've got other projects which are floating my boat and make me want to get excited, as opposed to, at the minute, I'll sit back away from that gene and I'll let other people do some stuff. And if it's working and the price goes up, it's my fault.
Yeah.
So
while we're on the pied subject, I wanted to ask you something. Do you think, it's controversial probably, do you think it's right that some people are charging more for smiley pies? I have seen some that are like twice, 3 times the price, and it's just a normal pied or something like that, and they call it a smiley pied and then want to charge so
there's a
much
bit of
more
history.
for it.
There's a bit of history behind this. So the gentleman that we're discussing back in the day, and I'll say his name. I've never had an ill running with him. Um, I've purchased animals from him, and he's always been on point
Mm-hmm.
because I know what I'm buying.
Mm.
Okay, but maybe back in the day there was stories of him flipping animals and saying they were his and all this sort of stuff. Um, but there's always two stories, and somewhere in the middle there's the truth.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, he personally now just works with pieds, and he obviously just produces pieds, and that's his thing. Um, if you can sell a smiley face pied, again, just in, I wouldn't say he marketed the smiley face pied, but the smiley face pied got into a newspaper, a national newspaper over there.
Right.
So of course that opened the doors to a lot of people who wanted a pet, like
Yeah.
a smiley face pied. And it's the same with dogs and cats. You know, certain dogs and cats breeds are way more money than
Yeah.
normal, and
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
have way
Yeah.
more problems. You
Yeah.
know, so you know if he can get £1,000 for a smiley face pied, mate, more power to him. Do you
Well,
know?
yeah.
Because I've sold smiley face pieds, and people will, oh look, it's got an emoji on it, and I'm going, oh yeah, maybe I should charge you £1,000. You know, I won't, but that's and this is the thing. Who are we to tell people what they can and can't price stuff out? Yeah,
Oh
if
no,
someone
no.
wanted,
Yeah.
do you see what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's one of
Yeah.
them,
Yeah.
and this is where a whole lot of the without being negative or without being, there's a lot of people out there with a massive target on their back because you've got a lot of people who hate on people, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of people out there, um, and they have no reason. You know, it's not hurting them. I look at it and I go, if he can get £1,000 for a smiley face pied, the next time I hit a smiley face pied, I'm going to put it up for £1,000. If that's
Yeah.
what they're going to sell for, I'll
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But ultimately, if someone wants to buy it, that's up to them. If someone wants to buy my Gene X clown pied female, she's 20k,
Yeah.
right? It's 20k. I don't want to sell her, but that's what it's going to take for someone to take her off my hands.
Exactly, because it's what she's worth to you. Exactly.
Yeah,
You know.
exactly. I know he may be he may be um, picking up on a market, let's say, or he's piggybacking off a market. But a lot of other brands do that. A
Yeah.
lot of other companies do that. One brand does really well the next minute, and the other brand that they're in competition with is doing the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and it's I think sometimes it is amazing. I think we look at it and we go, God, he's asking £1,000 for that smiley face pie.
I
Do you know
don't
what?
really think. My opinion is I don't think you can really overprice a snake because it's kind of what it's worth to you. But I do
Yeah,
think you can underprice one, which kind of undercuts other people that are working on that project. Because if someone sees something cheap and you're selling it more expensive, then they say, "Oh, but I've seen it for this price," and you go, "Yeah, but that's not what I'm selling it for." You know, it's kind of like he's selling it for that, and it kind of drops the value of everyone else who's working on that
yeah.
project. And you know, I
You've
mean,
hit the
like when
nail on the head.
we were talking about sunsets. I think there's one for sale now for 5k. To be honest, I think a year ago, 2 years ago, they were 10.
Hmm?
So
The
that's
start of the
cheap.
year, the start of the year, Gary, they were
Yeah,
$13,000 in America. Yeah.
yeah.
So what's that about? Eight? No, nine over here, something like that. 10 over
Uh,
here.
Conversion rate,
So
yeah, probably about 10 at the moment.
yeah. So and you will get this fluctuation because so there's two things that's going on. First things first is I think you can underprice a project, but you can underprice it because you're not sure how much they're worth.
Yeah, yeah,
So, for example, if someone's bringing out a new gene and they're going, "This is a new gene, this is amazing," where do you price it? Because
yeah,
there's nothing like it on the market. Where do you price it? It's hard. I remember Bob Clark when he first priced the albino ball python. It was $10,000, right? Don't sound a lot really to today's money, but
yeah,
all them years ago, I think it was 97, 96, 97. Dude, it was expensive, and
yeah,
everyone was going $10,000 for a ball python. You're joking. People paid it.
yeah,
People paid it, and then the next breath, people are going, well, if he paid that much for an albino ball python, then how much is it going to be worth for a clown, for a pied? Oh,
yeah,
now it's 25,000 for a pair of pieds.
yeah,
Oh, okay. And you see what I'm saying? So, so it's very difficult to price a project, and it's also you've got to be mindful when you are in that project. And this is why, again, buying the breeder, you manage the person who's managing the project is also key. That's why when Roland did what he did with the stranger
yeah,
in the beginning, okay, in the beginning, because the stories of things going out the back door and all this sort of stuff. In the beginning, he was only selling females.
yeah,
Year one, when he released them, he was only selling females. And for anyone that brought females, they were able to go on the list to get offered a male year two/year three.
mm,
Okay. He's managing that project. And that's why the Stranger project to this day is still holding value
mm,
because the way it's been handled. And eventually it will come down, it will come down. And I've spoke to other big breeders, and some of the big breeders who aren't in the project have said it's too overpriced.
mm,
And that's fine. But then there's people in there that in the project that don't mind paying that because that's what they feel it's worth. Again, going back to you will pay what it's worth.
yeah,
I was offered a male stranger clown 25k,
right,
and I was like, nah. It was too high. It was a breeder male. It was too high. Um, and for me, with that controversial stuff with the mahogany that was
yeah, yeah,
floating around, I was a bit like, I'm just going to sit back a bit and just see what happens. But and again, that's why we look at buying the breeder and how that breeder is going to handle the project. Because if you brought a project from me, Gary, and I said it was 10k,
mm,
but I said to you, look, I'm only releasing females, and you will get first dibs on a male when I
yeah,
release them. I'm not releasing anything else. I'm not going to go behind your back because my reputation is worth more than any money.
yeah,
Yeah. So for me, when people buy projects, and then if you buy it from someone who's a bit shady, you pay your money, you take your chances. You
yeah,
know. So you have to be mindful of the project you're buying. You've got to be excited about it and who you're buying from.
yeah. Right, let's get back into projects. Tri-stripe. Yeah.
Um, again, it's not my cup of tea. You seem to be asking all these questions that aren't my cup of tea. It's not my cup of tea, but seeing what Darren Stairs did with the Pastel Desert Ghost tri-stripe
yeah,
really set tri-stripe off, I believe.
yeah,
Um, I believe there's a lot of, and here's the thing again, similar to the puzzle, I've seen tri-stripes which you look at them and go, don't even have tri-stripes, don't even have
yeah,
like, you know,
yeah, yeah,
and then you see tri-stripes which are boom, they're like, wow. That's a tri-stripe. So I believe the tri-stripe you need to buy, if you're going to get into the project, you need to buy the best tri-stripe you can find, and you need to be excited about it. So the tri-stripe, there's plenty of projects out there that can create the tri-stripe or a striped animal. For me, I'll put my hands up. I didn't think the tri-stripe clown would work, but it does. It works.
Yeah.
Um, it is what it is. It works. I think it looks fantastic. Banana tri-stripes look amazing. Very simple, easy project. But yeah, for me, I like pattern. You know, I
Yeah.
like to try and produce pattern. But I do like, you know, tri-stripe. Sorry, no, G-stripe clowns have been done. G-stripe
Yeah,
clowns have been done.
tri-stripe. Will Morose has done the tri-stripe clown.
Has he? Oh, okay.
Yes.
Maybe that's. I don't know. I'm
It.
thinking G-stripe. Maybe I'm thinking of G-stripe. But yeah, with
Yeah.
tri-stripe. Sorry, going back. Tri-stripe. You need to buy the best version of tri-stripe you can find. I haven't seen the tri-stripe clown. Sorry, I was getting confused with G-stripe. But again, that's exactly the same thing. I think genetic stripe. You need to find the best version. You know.
It kind of looks like a funky leopard clown.
Oh, okay.
So it's not mind blowing,
Yeah.
but it, like he says, it's kind of a starting point.
Yeah.
So it you know, he wasn't. I don't think he was blown away by it himself, but like he said, it's a
Yeah.
starting point.
And I think that's the difference when you've got someone who can admit that. And it's
Yeah,
not about him going, "Oh, look at this! It's amazing." It is amazing that you've hit it.
yeah,
That's fantastic. But does it look amazing? That's two different
yeah,
things. And I
yeah,
think we've got to be able to, as breeders, go. It's a starting point, you know. And I think that's the key, knowing what's starting, or what's a starting point, and what's not.
yeah. Right. I think we'll get into. We'll do some codoms.
Okay.
So we'll go with Mandarin. What do you think of the Mandarin gene?
Overrated.
Do you think?
I've seen it in person. Yeah,
Okay. Have you
it's
seen a
overrated.
super in person? That's what I want to know.
I don't believe I have, but I have seen it obviously on pictures and in
Yeah,
video. But I've seen the single gene in person, and I wasn't. I wasn't. Yeah, it just seemed. It's like it's very overrated for what it does. It's a very subtle gene. Again, I haven't seen anything that's blown me away. I think. I think it'd be interesting to see what it does do. I'd like to see some sort of allelic reaction, let's say, with
yeah,
something. That'll be interesting. A bit like gravel and asphalt on its own.
yeah,
It looks terrible. You put it with a yellow belly, boom. You know,
yeah, yeah,
I'd like to see that for the mandarin, but I think there's a lot of breeders overrating it, and they're missing some amazing genes that's right in front of them. You know,
yeah.
um, and yeah,
Okay. Trojan.
yeah. Um, don't know. Again, it it hasn't made me jump up and go, I want to get one. So I'm going to sit in the background and just watch what people do with it, and I'll join the party late. You know,
Yeah,
um, you know, yeah. It, like when I saw chocolate, I knew I wanted to work with chocolate, but there was two lines of chocolate here in the UK that were floating around. There was the incomplete with a super, and there was the dominant one, which actually turned out to kind of, I think, kind of be nothing.
hmm.
And it was kind of missold So for me, I brought a chocolate pinstripe male, and I had the opportunity to buy a. I wanted to get chocolate into clown, so yeah, I sold that male, and then I went and brought some chocolate heck clown stuff and some chocolate clowns. But back onto um, the one you asked me about, I'll sit in the background and watch.
You're just gonna wait for that
Yeah,
one.
yeah,
And I think you've got this gene,
yeah.
so
Okay,
you probably be a good one. It's the Aurora gene.
yeah, okay. It's an interesting gene. I've got the single gene, and I've got a yellow belly spot nose super aurora. The yellow belly spot nose super aurora. I have a red stripe yellow belly spot nose het clown female from Justin.
Right?
The spot nose yellow belly super aurora looks better. Okay, it looks better.
Right?
Um, and what I kind of I've I'm kind of sitting back a little bit, and I'm letting Tony Hersey, who's the kind of the project manager, if you like. He wasn't the founder; he brought it from someone. He brought the whole project, but the manager of the project, bless him, Tony. I'm letting him. I keep pushing him, saying, "Come on, Tony, give me something to get my teeth into. Make me excited." And he's sending me pictures and stuff like that of Aurora combos. Um, but I like what it does. It reminds me. It has a reaction over dominant genes. In other words, like spot nose is quite heavy patterned.
Mm.
The aurora will attack the pattern. Um, but I'd like to see some super aurora on its own. I'd like to see super aurora on its own, and that's where I like to come from. So when I'm working with any project, I like to see the base gene, and then I like to see the super on its own, without being covered by other genes, and we're fighting to see. Because I think the super aurora on its own will look fantastic on its own. The spot nose yellow belly super aurora, I'll do an update on that pretty soon. He's looking fantastic. He's very impressive, very impressive. And here's the thing. So when we work with a gene that can be subtle, Aurora's not in your face, but it's not subtle either.
Mm.
But when we're working with a gene that can be subtle, when you've got a super on board, that's going to make things a hell of a lot easier.
Yeah.
Because the more you hatch something, the more you look at it, the more you see. And the more you go, now I see what I'm working with. And then when you've hatched like a pastel and a pastel aurora, then you can put them side by side and go, look, this is a pastel, this is a pastel aurora. Yeah. The one thing we have to do is when we're working with genes is not to muddy the pool. Try and isolate the single gene, make a super with the single genes attached, and then put that into your stuff. So the aurora gene, I'm really excited for. I think Tony's um, doing well with the project. And I'm just sitting back watching him and just saying, "Come on, Tony!" I'm prodding him. "Come on, Tony! Make something! Make something!" So yeah, I'm interested in that one. I like that one.
Cool. Right. Well, I think we've done about an hour now. So I've got 5 questions I'm going to ask everyone at the end.
Okay,
So it's
one.
kind of like okay. Question number one: all-time favorite combo.
Exantic. Well, I nearly said Exantic Clown. I've got to go
Yeah.
Bumblebee. That was the first one that got me into it. Then the Exantic Clown just suckered me in. But the Bumblebee got me in. For me, that will always hold a special place. Nothing crazy, but
No,
it'll hold a special place.
everyone's going to be probably
Yeah,
different
yeah.
unless everyone says Pompeii.
Yeah.
Okay, your favourite breeder?
Um, you see, that's really hard because I have 3 or 4 favourite breeders, and they're 3 or 4 favourite breeders for different reasons. And I'll tell you straight. Um, Brian Gundy, his passion just overwhelms, and he's just a fantastic guy. Um, Mark Mendeck from Marcus Chain,
Yeah,
he's like my Obi-Wan Kenobi of the ball pythons. He's just amazing guy. Uh, Ozzy, obviously, because he went off and did different things compared to everyone else, which is like kind of reminds me of me. I like to be different. Um, so yeah, they're my favourite breeders, and there are a few more, but for me, those guys kind of steered me. You know, Brian Gundy steered me to being that sort of helpful person. Mark gave me that impression where enjoy the ride, and Ozzy gave me the inspiration to go. Let's go all out and do some different craziness. You know,
yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm inspired by those 3.
Okay, if you had to pick Pied or Clown? Right, the next question's easier for you.
Um, you know what? I'd have to say Pied. I'd have to say Pied.
I would as well, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Clown is king, and it's
Yeah,
king for a reason, because it makes some phenomenal combos. But we haven't seen. I believe there's some crazy looking combos in Pied. I think we're learning to control the Pied gene. So for me, Pied,
okay. Well, probably already going to answer this itself. Sunset or monsoon?
Sunset.
Obviously. And you've got all the money in the world. You can buy one snake. What are you buying?
Ooh, that's a real good question. You know what? I really don't know because it's kind of.
You wouldn't buy one of those sunset pies.
You see, this is the thing. This is the thing. Um, I am a little bit old school, as in I like to make stuff myself.
Yeah, yeah,
I think that's a UK type thing mentality, but it's old school as well.
yeah,
Um, I'd love to just hatch a sunset pied myself and go, I've done it.
yeah.
Um, all the money in the world, what would I buy? Um, you know what? I think I'd just buy the Stormtrooper.
Oh, okay.
And the reason for that is not to breed it, because it was an anomaly.
Yeah,
Not to breed it, but just to say, I've got the Stormtrooper. You know? If if John Degg wanted, I think he wanted 50K for it. John, I'll give you 60. Send me a
yeah,
free T-shirt. You know, if I had
yeah,
all the
yeah,
money in the world,
yeah.
just to say I've got the Stormtrooper.
Doesn't he say that he's not sure what's in it?
So okay. Here's the thing. It's a pastel desert ghost exantic. Okay,
Okay.
but what's making it go through the color change is certain. It only happens every now and again. Pastels go through a black and white change.
Hmm.
It's happened with pastel calicos, where they've just gone jet black and white. It's
Okay.
happened before with other combos which have a pastel in it. I've seen fireflies which have been black and white.
Yeah.
Um, and back in the day when John first hit it, when he did the videos, and I remember him on a few of the reptile radios in America, and he was talking. You know, he mentioned Desert Ghost was floating around in his collection, and then kind of, I think when everyone went, "Shh, don't tell everyone," just don't tell everyone. And he went, oh, I think there's some special gene in there, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
And listen, John's a great guy. He's got a great collection, and I'm not knocking him at all because there was a lot of breeders back in the day who were known for this has got a hidden gene in it.
mm,
You want this to make this combo, you need to buy this and you need to buy this, and these two animals will only make this.
yeah,
And in actual fact, that weren't the truth. So um, I don't. It can't be reproduced. It's an anomaly within the pastel line.
mm,
The pastels, you'll see some pastels on their own. They'll go through this black and white change. I had an hidden gene Woma, pastel hidden gene Woma, and it looked exantic. Yeah, it's the pastel. The pastel,
yeah,
for some reason, has this weird reaction, and it just loses all its color pigment, and it just goes like a very pale color. And obviously, with that in Desert Ghost and in Exantic, he just
yeah,
had that chemical reaction where we've not seen it before. So for me, the Stormtrooper though is fantastic marketing. It's probably the best marketing snake
yeah,
out there. You imagine, Gary, if I brought the Stormtrooper and I took it to Doncaster,
yeah.
do you know how many people would be coming to the table to look at it?
I think, isn't it the world's most famous ball python or something? Didn't it get like the most hits on Google and everything? So it's
Yeah,
just literally, it's got that claim to fame, you know?
marketing it. There's never been another snake like it.
No,
And people who had the money to pay 50K should have brought it for the marketing.
marketing, yeah.
Because as we learned when I had Mark on, when we did the live on the Patreon, when we had Mark Mendek on, and he was
Mm,
talking about when he brought the Marvel ball, which was a
yeah,
pastel. It was a lemon pastel super stripe. It was one of the first ones made by Mark Haas. Um, you know, um, he brought that, and that brought him more marketing, more people to his site than what the snake was worth.
yeah,
So for me, I'd say to John, John, here's 60K. Send me over the Stormtrooper. Make sure you send in a t-shirt and a sticker. Yeah?
yeah,
And I'm going to be, dude, I'll have a full-size Stormtrooper at Doncaster. I'd have the snake on display. Can you imagine how many people come to my table?
yeah,
So
yeah,
when we look at things, and this is the thing, I think I've got a different way sometimes of looking at things. Um, but that's what I'd buy. When you said to me, "Wouldn't you buy this?" and I'd be like, "Oh, I know one snake," because marketing. It'd
yeah,
be awesome. You imagine how many likes I'd get on my video.
yeah,
I said, "Do you guys want to see the Stormtrooper?" Do you know what I mean? They'd get mad for it. So for me,
yeah.
the Stormtrooper, yeah, definitely. And then I'd
Brilliant.
buy Justin's facility off him.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's not allowed. It's just literally made for one snake. That's it. You know, it's all you're allowed.
Stormtrooper then,
Not allowed anything
Stormtrooper,
else.
Stormtrooper.
Yeah,
What I could do, I could pay. I could charge £1 for everyone who wanted to come look at it and take a picture with it. Dude, I'd be minted. You know, I'd be
that's
minted.
true. That's true. All right. Thanks, Gavin.
Cool.
I really appreciate you coming on, buddy.
No worries. Thanks for
You
having me.
know,
It's been good.
it's just like I say, it's great just to pick your brain. I just thought, do you know what? Like, I think we all talk about these genes all the time, and I just thought, do you know what?
We,
You
we
know,
we can't get away. We can't get away from the reality. And
yeah,
and the good thing is, like, you're in some projects that I'm not in, and
hmm
I'm in some projects that you're not in. And what's great is we can look at things and go, this isn't that doesn't take my fancy, and that doesn't take your fancy, but we come together because we're in the same hobby and we're on the same wavelength.
mm,
Just because you're in a project that I'm not in and vice versa, I'm not going to hate on it. It's just not for me, and vice
yeah,
versa. You Gavin, it's not for me. That's
yeah,
great. That just means I've got to change your mind. So I've
yeah,
got to make something that'll go. You'll go, Gav. You know what? I want in
yeah.
on that project. And that's the interesting thing for me. So, but this was good. I enjoyed it.
Thanks, buddy. I really appreciate it.